The first reaction of a lot of critics when it comes to a TV show about punk is gonna be this: it's just not punk enough. Well, I'm here to tell you, never mind the here's the Sex Pistols.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Sex Pistols.
Punk has taken London's youth by storm.
People's minds are too imprisoned. We want to destroy that so the future can emerge.
We're going to kick this country awake if it kills us.
Hey there and welcome to Screen OD. I hope you're having a good day. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, my name is Tim. I'm an editor and a journalist who's been writing about TV, films and the entertainment industry for almost 15 years. I know it makes me feel old. Not quite old enough to have lived through the first wave of punk rock, which is the theme of our TV show review today, but you know, still getting on a little bit. If you're a returning visitor, hello again. Welcome back to Screen OD. It's great to have you on board, and you should tell the newbies that they should subscribe. And I don't just want you to subscribe, new people to the channel. I would love you to write in the comment below, I have subscribed, when you do subscribe. Do you know why? Because then I can say hello to you, because otherwise you're just a number. And I don't want you to be a number. I want you to be part of the Screen OD community. So write in the comments below, I subscribed, and then I can reply and say hi and find out what sort of TV you like. And we, you know, maybe we can get chatting about all the great things that people are watching right now. Anyway, let's get on with the review, because today we are talking about a show that has been directed by what I think is probably fair to say is a legendary director in British terms. He's been making films now for 3 decades. He is, of course, Danny Boyle, the man who brought us things like Trainspotting and Shallow Grave. And of course, for those who watched the London 2012 Olympics, they'll know that he also curated that spectacular opening ceremony event. So there is lots to be excited about when Danny Boyle is involved in a project, and this is a project that I think if you like music, you're going to like a lot. 'Cause I wanna be anarchic. Right, it's him. Well, let's hope that doesn't happen again. Sorry about that. Let's talk about the show, which is very good. It's based on the memoirs of Steve Jones, guitarist of the Sex Pistols, a book called Lonely Boy, Tales of a Sex Pistol, which is quite descriptive of what goes on in the show. This is about the foundations of the Sex Pistols, a band that would go on to completely change punk rock and music forever in Britain and across the world, and be incredibly influential still today. And this is taken from the perspective of Steve Jones, which is a relatively fresh perspective. There's been lots of stories told about the Sex Pistols before, often focusing on different members of the band, but on this occasion we're looking at it through the eyes of Steve Jones. We're looking at a boy who's growing up and is in an impoverished kind of world. He's not got a great childhood. He's fallen into bad ways. He's running with bad crowds. 'Cause we're so pretty, oh so pretty, vacant. I told you, stop doing that. Steve Jones' story is about someone who's coming from the have-nots. In Britain at that time in the 1970s, it felt like there was a large proportion of working class people who were very disenfranchised, especially among the youth. There was a lot of unemployment. There was a lot of people who felt like they didn't have a place and they couldn't find a place. And there was a rebellion growing, and that is what comes out through the Sex Pistols music. These lads who get together, who aren't particularly amazing at instruments or singing at the beginning, but they have a passion to drive it forward, led in this show, as you can see, by Steve Jones, and this feeling that he needs to do something that's different. He doesn't want to make music that sounds like everyone else's. This is fueled by his relationship and the relationship of the band with other key people that will come into the Sex Pistols' lives. At the beginning, we meet Vivienne Westwood, who's running a boutique shop called Sex in London, and she is accompanied by Malcolm McLaren, who would go on to become the manager of the Sex Pistols, the famous manager, and this would be a partnership that would drive forward this punk movement. It was more than just music, it was a movement, and that's what we see come together in this TV show at breakneck speed in a way that you would expect from Danny Boyle as a director. There's sharp, quick cutting. The whole thing is filmed in 4:3 to make it feel like it's the 70s. There's a real style to it. It's a very stylized program, and all of these parts come together to make you feel like you are in this story in the 1970s and you're part of this cultural revolution that's going on. There's some really great performances in the show from a really interesting and relatively young cast. You've got Toby Wallace, who plays Steve Jones, the lead character in the show, who really captures that kind of tortured soul, someone who is lonely in the middle of a crowd and has a huge amount of demons going on behind everything that goes on in his life. You've got Anson Boone, who plays Johnny Rotten, who of course is this kind of anarchic, chaotic character who really starts to develop and bloom and become an enormously important part of what the Sex Pistols are. I think Tallulah Riley's portrayal of Vivienne Westwood is really pivotal at the centre of this show. She is bringing the art, the movement to the music. She is designing clothes. She is making them feel like they are more than just punk rockers. And then you've got Thomas Brodie Sangster, who is playing Malcolm McLaren, which is an iconic character in musical terms. The manager of the band, the person who was responsible for bringing together a lot of the most famous things that happened, the kind of 1977 on the Queen's Jubilee, bringing together God Save the Queen. That's typical of that kind of amazing shock tactic that he was able to bring. And of course, he was instrumental in bringing Sid Vicious into the band as well. And I think that Brodie Sangster really captures a kind of almost chameleon type character in the way that he plays McLaren, someone who can talk to a crowd in the way that they want to be talked to, give them what they need, but also has clearly got this amazing mind, someone who's able to come up with fantastic ideas and really capture the imagination of the people. It's also worth looking out for Maisie Williams, who is in the show playing Pamela Rook, who's better known to many people in the punk rock scene as Jordan, who's an actress and a model who spent a lot of time with Vivienne Westwood in the early days of the Sex Pistols and was often there or thereabouts in a lot of the early parts of their career. She's very impressive in a role that's very different to one that perhaps you've seen her play before. This is a show that has a good pace to it. It's got a pace that makes you feel like you're being pulled along slightly. It's the way that it's cut together, the way that the whole thing has been constructed and crafted feels like there's a lot of passion behind it. And I think, with the experience and the obvious interest in the subject that Danny Boyle has, you can feel that come through on the screen. Now, there's always going to be a criticism of anything to do with punk rock. It's not dirty enough, it's not grimy enough. Well, I think that's a criticism it's almost impossible to please people, because if you made something that was too lo-fi in the way that it looked, I don't think that anyone would watch it or want to watch it. So you have to find that balance, and I think this show's found the balance in a really good way. It's got enough visual clues, it's got bits of file footage cut in, it's got all of those things that take you back to a time that was different, but at the same time it has had to be made with 21st century equipment for a 21st century audience to engage with people from different age groups, not just people who lived in the 70s and were there the first time round for punk. I think they've done a really good job on this front, and it's an impressive way of bringing alive a time that was clearly very different and very influential. Should you go and watch it? I think you should. If you are in the US, you can watch it now on Hulu, and if you're in the UK, you can watch Pistol on Disney Plus. I will warn you that there is definitely some language in it, so it's not one for the kids. But off you go and enjoy Pistol, and let me know in the comments below if you have subscribed, because I want to say hello, and also let me know what you think of the show. Speak to you again very soon. Take care.